Stage, the great defender of Pennsylvania values, ACU Chairman Matt Schlapp, in a conversation with Sean Parnell.
Hey everybody, how's it going? How you doing? So is it not a great day to be an American? You know what, are we excited about 4 more years? Can you say it? Let's hear it. I love it. See, we got to go. See, we got it going on here.
I feel so short. Is that how everyone feels? So we were talking backstage, Sean, about a couple things. The first thing is we're watching this video.
Yes.
What is going on in our country?
Well, I think right now the American way of life is at risk. In fact, that's part of the reason why I decided to run for Congress. Does anybody know my story and how I came to serve? Maybe a little bit? Do you mind if I tell it real quick? Do you mind? So I was an infantry platoon leader at the height of the hunt for bin Laden in Afghanistan in 2006. Our mission was just to find the guy. We didn't. But we found a lot of bad guys, thousands of enemy troops. My platoon took an 85% casualty rate. Some of my men were wounded twice, some 3 times. I was wounded myself and medically retired. And I left the military broken in 2010 and sort of had to reinvent myself in the private sector. Came back here to Western Pennsylvania where I was born and raised. Started writing books for a living. Had no idea that my first book would take off and become a bestseller, but that also gave me the opportunity to do a lot of charity work. I've been doing that for the last 8 years until one day President Trump came to the district at the Marcellus Shale Coalition and called me out randomly to run for Congress, and I wasn't even there. So do you want to hear the story? Okay. So I'm down in South Carolina. We had just given a service dog to a veteran. I come off the stage and I look at my phone and I had 50 missed calls. And I mean, from reporters, consultants, aspiring campaign managers. But you know what's called was scared me the most? My mother. My mom. She was calling me over and over and over again. She's like this fierce Italian woman. And I get off the stage and I'm like, Ma, what's wrong? What's going on? I thought there was a death in the family. And she just goes to me, she goes, Sean. I'm like, what, Ma? She goes, are you running for Congress? And I said, Ma, no, I'm not running for Congress. And she just pauses. And she goes, well, the President of the United States says you're running for Congress. And I said, what? And she sends me the video of President Trump going off script and calling me out to run. And so guess what? Turned my life upside down, got in the race, and we've been campaigning ever since. And guess what? We are winning. And I am... and I am so excited. I'll tell you what, I am so excited to take the gavel from Nancy Pelosi and give the power in this country back to the people. I love it. This is the best part of the job.
All right, so while you're taking the gavel from Nancy Pelosi, could you do us a favor? Could you do a little cleanup work? Along the way, could you take the gavel away from Mr. Schiff and Mr. Nadler?
Yes. That's what we're going to do. I mean, look, ultimately, so how many of y'all remember Connor Lamb when, how many of y'all remember what Connor Lamb said when he ran for Congress? Do you remember Connor Lamb? Connor Lamb promised that he would be an independent, moderate voice for Western Pennsylvania. Do you remember that? You remember in his very first ad, he posed with an AR-15 and said he was going to be pro-gun. Guess what rating he has with the NRA today? F. Guess what rating I have? A, that's right. Connor Lamb also told you that he was pro-life, but he voted against the Born Alive Act not once, but twice. Connor Lamb also told you one of the first things that he said after he won was that he looks forward to supporting the conservatives and Trump supporters that put him there. And then he voted to impeach the president. And then Connor Lamb said he was going to oppose Nancy Pelosi, but guess what? He votes with her over 90% of the time, and if that's not bad enough, he votes with Ilhan Omar and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez 90% of the time. So let me ask you a question. Is that an independent, moderate voice? Did he keep his promises to Western Pennsylvania? No. And so, I love your passion, ma'am. I love it. And so listen, we were talking backstage. This job is about being a representative by and for the people. And guess what? If you lie to the people, it's disqualifying. And guess what? In November, we are going to disqualify Connor Lamb from office.
So let me get this straight. Connor Lamb has an F with the NRA.
Yes.
And an A with Nancy Pelosi.
That's correct. That's correct. He actually does have an A with Nancy Pelosi.
And
yes.
if Nancy Pelosi can push people like Connor Lamb to another victory, because she's spending a lot of money through Act Blue, do you think they'll impeach the president again?
I absolutely. Who all thinks that Congress will impeach the president again? They're already talking about impeachment 2.0. In fact, Matt, when you were talking about Nancy Pelosi, she's literally trying to buy this district for Connor Lamb. In fact, I think something like 9 months prior to the election, her super PAC invested $1.3 million into PA 17 to help get him across the goal line, because even Speaker Pelosi knows that Connor Lamb is weak and that Connor Lamb is vulnerable. But guess what? We're not going to allow that to happen. Do you want to know why? You want to know why? Because for the first time ever in the second quarter, I outraised Connor Lamb. And you know what? We did it in grand fashion. I outraised him by over $270,000. And so guess what? Guess what? Guess what else? Guess what else? We just got polling back. 40 plus days to election day. The race in PA 17 is a tie. Is a tie. And look, it's always tough as a challenger. You know that, right? I mean, it's always tough going up against an incumbent. But the fact that Connor Lamb is at 45 right now in this district does not bode well for him. We have all the momentum, right? Do you know how many doors we knocked last weekend? 7,000 doors. In the last 3 months? Yeah, he's one. Yes, exactly. You are, I know, you guys are great. You know what we call our door knockers? We call our door knockers Parnell's platoon. And in the last 4 months, we've had over, I think, something like 5,000 volunteer signups here in Western Pennsylvania. And the volunteers that work as part of our movement, it's not just about me, it's about candidates up and down the ballot. It's about making sure that Western Pennsylvania stays red for generations, right? And it's about preserving, I mean, ultimately, you ask what's going on in this country, I think it's all on the line, ladies and gentlemen. I think that America right now, you know, all politicians come out and they say, this is the most important election of our lifetime. But 2020, it really is. You know, I believe that this country stands on a very thin line between hope and darkness. All right, we are in a fight for the heart and soul of this country. Freedom versus socialism. The ability to chart your own path. The ability to chart your own path in this life, or total government control over every aspect of your life. And so we need you all to fight, because you know what? I have a feeling that everybody in this room chooses freedom, right? So,
can I ask you a couple questions?
yeah, oh yeah, sorry, I'm just talking.
No, this is, hey, Sean, this is your show. We need people like you to win, and I'd like to just thank you for running, because it takes a lot of courage to run.
Thank you.
But I have a couple questions for you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You want to defund cops?
Absolutely not. I want to defend the police. And so for the first time, so guess what? So in 2018, Connor Lamb gratefully accepted the police union's endorsement for the most part here in Western Pennsylvania. But for the first time in a long time, they're all galvanized behind me.
You think President Biden that it's just to take nuns to court to make them pay for abortions and contraception and these things? Does that make sense to you?
Nothing. Very little of what Joe Biden says makes sense to me. And I mean,
I thought you knew the secret language that Joe Biden was speaking, you know?
I don't even think Joe Biden knows the secret language of Joe.
When Nancy Pelosi actually, after 3 months, goes to the floor of the House of Representatives, where you'll be soon, and finally kind of meekly denounces violence, what does that tell you?
That tells me that she finally saw the polling, right? But you know what's disconcerting about that? Is that the American people have been hurting, really hurting for months. And the Democrats did not care about the American people until it affected their poll numbers. And that is fundamentally wrong. That is fundamentally wrong. And we're going to make sure that we change that in November.
Do you think schools were meant to be open to actually educate kids, or just to be computer platforms for, for this idea that for liberals, they only like homeschooling when they can mandate it on all of us?
Yeah. I think that our children going back to school is probably going to be one of the greatest public policy debates of our time. And here's my thing. Our kids need to go back to school. And we need to get as many kids back to school as safely as possible, because otherwise we risk leaving an entire generation behind, And most of the children that are affected by these decisions are lower income families that maybe can't afford to send their kids somewhere else. A lot of kids, what we've learned through this pandemic is a lot of children rely on 2 meals a day at school. Well, what are those little ones doing now? Right? So I think we owe it to them to get we've got to come up with a plan to get as many kids back to school and as safely as possible.
As we, how many days till Election Day?
What, like 45?
Someone's probably has
45?
a shot clock here
44?
somewhere that can tell us.
45? Geez, I don't know.
How can folks help you?
Well, listen, if you want to help me, first of all, go to SeanForCongress.co, sign up and volunteer for me, okay?
You guys have cell phones. They probably work right now.
Yeah, I mean, listen, this is you don't get a job on my campaign unless you meet 3 criteria. You're humble, hungry, and you're smart. There's too much ego in politics. And part of the things that I tell the new employees on my campaign is they have to love and appreciate the volunteers. Because a commander that I had in the Army told me a long time ago, it said to me, Sean, if someone's willing to volunteer their time for you, it's sacred. Show up for them, thank them. If you sign up and you volunteer with our campaign, and you're a part of our movement, we will be there for you, and we appreciate that. So sign up to volunteer, or if you can manage it, contribute to the campaign. Be a part of this movement, because every dollar, I would say probably 90% of what I raise goes to getting the message out. And so we've been up on TV for the last month with 2 different ads. We've had a radio ad running now, and I've got a brand new ad that just came out yesterday. And part of the reason why I lost my voice, I'm losing my voice right now, is a couple days ago we did a 15-hour day and filmed 4 more TV ads that will run from now until Election Day. So you're all a part of that. None of this is possible without you.
Will Donald Trump win Pennsylvania?
Donald Trump will win the state of Pennsylvania, yes.
And to conclude this segment, because we got to get you back on the campaign trail, and we're going to have to get Diamond and Silk out here pretty soon, too.
Okay.
You compete with them, by the way, just barely. But close this down by explaining to folks why it's so important for them to support Donald Trump. Not that that's a problem in this room, but for everyone who's listening and watching.
Because Donald Trump is the only thing that's standing in the way of freedom, or standing in the way of socialism in this country. Donald Trump is up there on the parapet taking shots for the American people every day. He fights for us. So guess what? It's our turn to fight for him.
And as he says, when all those terrible people in the swamp and all the elites who think they're so smart, the smart set, when they attack him, they're really attacking all of you.
That's right. So fight for him. Fight for us. Fight for us.
Sean Parnell.
Thank you.
Do everything you can for him, okay?
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.